you're starting to have a stress response or an anxiety attack, and the people around you want to help. So they say things like, relax, it's okay. Listen, this is not that big of a deal. You don't have anything to worry about. It's all going to be fine. This is not something that needs to cause you stress. Just let it go or put it down for right now. And that sounds beautiful because those people want to help you. They want to help you soothe. Or maybe you've even been the one to say these things to somebody else to help them. Now, are these beautiful words going to work? No, they're likely not going to work. And there's a really important reason why it's too late for some of these words. But I am going to tell you what you can do instead that's going to be incredibly helpful to that person or to you if you experience anxiety and stress like this. So welcome to Holistic Therapy Revolution, where we are aligning mind, body, and soul when talk is not enough. And often it is not enough. It's important, but it's not everything. I'm Beth Miller. I am a holistic psychotherapist, and I am the creator of the Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching Model, where we teach people all of the tools for all of the layers of the being about how to actually heal and thrive in ways that are able to be done because we're taking a holistic, whole body approach. I believe using modern, inspiring, holistic therapy that pairs traditional with the alternative, with the holistic, actually helps us to do way more, not just in therapy, but for all of the self-growth seekers, all of the folks out there that are looking for what's really going to work. Welcome to the revolution. I'm so glad you're here. So today we're talking about something that really changes everything when it comes to anxiety. Because most people, and even many therapists, totally normally and understandably, are sometimes starting in the wrong place when it comes to anxiety and stress. So here's the mistake we've been taught. When anxiety hits, when your chest tightens, when your heart starts to pound, when your thoughts begin racing, what do we usually do? We go after the thoughts. We challenge them. We reframe them. We analyze them. We try to convince ourselves that the way that we're feeling or responding isn't logical. Yeah. And sometimes that does work if the nervous system has not already been fully activated. Because once a stress response has begun, thinking is not the first intervention because thinking mostly is not going to work. Because by the time you are consciously aware of the anxious thoughts that you have, your body has already shifted into a very primitive version of survival. Now, what actually happens in the body when we have a stress response? And a lot of you probably already know quite a bit about the stress response, especially if you've been trying to figure out what the heck to do about your anxiety or your clients' anxieties. When the stress response is activated, a few things have preceded it. We've had a stress-based or fear-based thought. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen in this meeting today? Oh my gosh, am I going to make an idiot out of myself on the soccer field today? Oh my gosh, I can't do it. So that thought, the fear-based thought, then produces a fear-based set of emotions. This could be fear, worry, concern, panic, that we are having an emotional response to the thoughts that we have. Now, the thoughts and the emotions together then create a biological response in our bodies. That biological response often feels like heart rate increasing, breathing changes, shallow, like an elephant sitting on your chest, right? Blood flow shifts, that bring the blood to larger muscle groups, to the more reptilian part of your spine and brain, and actually decrease blood flow from the neocortex, from your fingers, and from your toes. Your system is preparing for fight or flight by dumping adrenaline into your bloodstream because you had a thought that you were really scared about something. You produced emotions that were really scared. And now the body's saying, oh, no problem. Let's give you some adrenaline so you can fight or flight. You could see it's trying to do us a favor, right? It's just listening to instructions. Now, adrenaline is not a thought. And we can't fix adrenaline with a thought. Adrenaline is a chemical. And it's a chemical that once it's circulating in our bloodstream has to be reduced or metabolized before we can restabilize and feel good again. But when that adrenaline is in the bloodstream, we are inhibited from feeling well. We can't feel normal because we're not back to a safe homeostasis. This is critical. You cannot cognitively override adrenaline. You can't positively think your way out of an adrenaline response. When your bloodstream is filled with stress hormones, you have to do something different to be able to feel safe again and ultimately to be able to have that thinking brain back. And until your adrenaline levels begin to decrease, your system is going to remain activated, which means you're going to feel shaky on the inside, your chest is going to feel compressed, your breathing's going to feel restricted, your tummy might feel bad. You might not be able to think clear. You might be thinking in a foggy way. You may feel disoriented. That's because of the adrenaline that's in there. So when that adrenaline is high, the prefrontal cortex, or the neocortex, that's the rational, logical part of your thinking brain, it goes partially offline. Why? Because when we are fighting or flighting, we don't need a lot of energy spent on the rational part of our thinking brain. So the adrenaline reduces, or that stress response reduces some of the blood flow and the oxygen from the neocortex so that it can bring it to other parts of your body that do need that oxygen and blood flow in order to be able to fight or flight. So trying to reason with anxiety in that moment is like trying to negotiate during a fire alarm. It's essentially impossible because the body has to be attended to, because right now the body's needs are in charge. So there's an order that actually works for reducing anxiety or matching a stress response or an anxiety response with skills and tools that can actually help. And here is the shift. When that anxiety begins, you have to regulate the body first, not the thoughts. In other words, it's a waste most of the time to try to talk to people about their anxiety in that moment. When they're already in that activated state, this is basically a waste. Instead, we have to work with the body almost exclusively, because reducing adrenaline in the bloodstream is essential to reestablishing the nervous system. And once that chemistry shifts, the cognition will follow. The neocortex will come back online, your logical brain will be more intact, and that is where reflection can happen after. So this is why so many people feel frustrated when the cognitive tools don't work in those moments. And it's not that those cognitive tools are not valuable. They really, really are. They just have to be placed properly in the healing of your anxiety, and the moment to use them is not when you're in the middle of the anxiety attack. And it's not that you're broken, and it's not that the order is entirely wrong for everything. It just means that we have to regulate the body first, calm the body first, help the body feel safe first, and reflect second. So how do we actually reduce that adrenaline in the bloodstream and actually stabilize the physical body when we're starting to feel that level of stress or anxiety? We have to use physiology to shift physiology. We meet the body where it's at, and we give it what it needs in order to feel safe and secure again. We do this with some primary methods that are really effective One of them is diaphragmatic or belly breathing. I know you've heard of it before. Many people don't really do it correct, and they might also do it long enough to be able to get the results of what I call nature's Xanax. So those deep breaths into the belly and long exhales out through the mouth. That breathing reduces adrenaline from the bloodstream. And once that adrenaline starts getting sucked out of the bloodstream, now we're going to be able to feel stable again and also be able to think more logically and properly again. Another option is rigorous exercise. Again, because when we're using rigorous exercise, it's like we're fighting or flighting, meaning we're actually using the adrenaline for what it was for. It's in there so we can fight or so we can run. But if we just go for a run or we do fast sit-ups or fast push-ups or a fast walk, what's going to happen is we're going to drain that adrenaline out of the bloodstream. Just like with the belly breathing. Those are really effective. We also could do things that are a little bit more gentle. Rhythmic movement like walking tends to be very effective. Shaking out the tension in our arms and our shoulders tends to be very effective. Grounding ourselves with our five senses, that tends to be effective because it involves the body. Humming and using soft vocalization to stimulate the vagus nerve, humming or singing gently, actually stimulates the vagus nerve and activates our parasympathetic nervous system, calming us down. These interventions signal safety. Tell our body that we have nothing to fear, nothing to run from, nothing to hide. Nothing to fight. They tell the nervous system that the threat has passed. Now, as the body receives these safety cues, adrenaline begins to metabolize, heart rate slows, breathing stabilizes, blood flow normalizes, and then the clarity will return. Then you can explore the thoughts, plan for how to do things differently in the future so that you don't have the same level of anxiety when there's a trigger, but not during the anxiety attack. So anxiety is not simply a thought disorder. It's a whole body experience. It's a whole person experience. And it's a nervous system state. Your body is not betraying you if you have anxiety, and you're not failing either. It's trying to protect you. It's doing what you essentially are telling it to do because of those fear-based thoughts that you have. Now, those are the things that we can find a new way to think differently about. But once we've had that anxiety attack or in that stress response, we have to meet the body where it's at. So we should stop shaming ourselves, and we can stop fighting ourselves about this. Instead, we could just be more skillful when we do go into some kind of a stress response. For example, when I was working with a teenager that had a lot of anxiety about going out onto the soccer field, when we would talk about it, it would even activate all of that stress and that anxiety. So I would actually have them lay down, start doing belly breathing. I also use a coherence meditation that I find to be incredibly useful. Might do some EFT tapping, perhaps a little bit of humming for the vagus nerve stimulation. And what I find is that their body reestablishes safety, and then they actually feel better. They can either go out onto the soccer field, or now we can talk about other aspects of the anxiety and how to resolve it. We start believing that we can cope and that we have ways to calm ourselves down, which also reduces our anxiety. When we work with our biology instead of against it, this is where whole being and holistic therapy changes everything. It empowers people. It can empower people that are listening right now. It can empower therapists working with clients. It can empower their clients that are listening. Because when talk isn't enough, we need to remember that we are whole beings, and we need to align mind, body, and soul, not just the mind. Now, if this resonates with you, please share this episode with somebody else that would find it to be useful. People that perhaps are frustrated that they cannot stop their anxiety, or they're so afraid of having an anxiety attack because of how terrible it feels, and it does. And if you're a therapist listening, this shit alone can transform your sessions because it's so empowering to people and to you. I'd like to thank you for being here. But I also want to thank you for your curiosity. I want to thank you for understanding that we need more than just talk therapy. And I want to always welcome you to the holistic therapy revolution.